Always take the back roads because you never know what it is that you're going to discover. Tatamagouche, Nova Scotia, we discover the Discovery Train. This is a 1920s train that has been converted into a series of hotel rooms and a dining room. It's really quite amazing. And I wanted to share another story from the train trip that I took across Canada. And on that train trip, what I did, because of the inspiration of a little girl I talked about in a previous video blog, I decided I was going to start asking people questions. I was that guy that when I sat next to you, instead of small talk, I asked you, what is the number one piece of advice that you would like to pass on to other people in this world? And I asked that question most frequently in the bar car. And about 4 days in, the bartender comes over, who I'd gotten to know pretty well, and she says, do you mind if I answer a question you didn't ask me? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, I've really found it interesting listening to the answers to that question you're asking people. What is one piece of advice that you would like to give people to make their lives better? And she says, I want to give you mine. And I know I'm just a bartender, but I'd like to share it. And I said, okay, go ahead. And she says, first, let me ask you this. Why are you on the train? And I said, what do you mean? And she says, there's faster ways to travel. There's more efficient ways to travel. There's less expensive ways. Why are you taking the train? And I said, oh, I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to go all the way to the West Coast and then all the way back to the East, to travel all the way across the country on a train, the way people used to. And she says, okay, you can learn so much about people by how they answer that question. And what I've discovered is this. The most successful people, they always tell you exactly where they're going. I'm going to Vancouver, I'm going to Montreal, I'm going to Halifax. The most interesting people tell you all the places that they've been. We stopped in Sherbrooke, we went to Regina, we went to Winnipeg. The happiest people, all they ever tell you is what direction they're going. I'm going west, I'm going east, I'm going north. So she says, to me, the best way to put together the best life is, yeah, know exactly where you're going, but mostly know what direction it is and make sure you know where you need to stop along the way. And I loved that. Because I think we get so wrapped up in, yeah, we have to know exactly where we're going, but we have to know every single inch of the journey from here to there, and until we do, we don't start it. I think the key is simply know where it is that you want to get to, or at least the general area. And all you need to know is what direction it is, and then create for yourself some benchmarks along the way. Where is your Winnipeg? Where is your Regina? That indicates, okay, these are something that have to happen along the way. But you don't need to know exactly when, and you don't need to know exactly where. What you really need to do to have the best life, know where you're going, know where you need to stop along the way, and make sure you know what direction you always have to be traveling. So from Tatamagouche, Nova Scotia, this is a day one video blog.